Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Movement, Mind, and Meaning podcast. Today is one that is really alive for me right now, as they all are for sure, but this one is even more so deeply. So I'm in a pretty tender place right now as our 16-year-old doggy at this moment in time is preparing to head over the Rainbow Bridge. And likely when you listen to this, at least depending on timing, when you listen to this, he will have already transitioned. He has congestive heart disease and it has progressed over the last few years. And it's time. And it's a really difficult place to be in. And as a caregiver, that's our ultimate responsibility, is to care for him. And unfortunately, as his body is fading and his trachea has partially collapsed, it's time. Because we want this to be graceful as this can be, and as easeful as this can be for everyone. So right now, I have learned I am sitting in what is called, I didn't know this was a thing until recently, anticipatory grief, meaning the mental, emotional, physical response to this very real event, this stressor. And since this show is about mind and body tools to navigate beyond and through anxiety and depression, this is a very real thing, this loss when it happens in the moment, this loss in this future moment which is what I'm experiencing. And so I didn't even know that this was a thing until, just a couple of days ago when I started to look into this. And so, as it is very similar to grief, but grief usually happens once an event occurs, right? So this anticipatory sort of limbo, if you will, once you get the news about something and the feelings that you start to experience right away. And I gotta tell you, is really confusing and very conflicting. And so, this can be at the loss, the pending loss of a pet or a loved one. It occurs a lot in a diagnosis, which makes sense because someone might be grieving the loss of their vitality and their health. Maybe knowing that there's financial changes at a workplace and the pending announcement of like losing a job or a relationship or something like that, or recently, and I mean it's probably longer than recently, but another thing is climate grief, because there's these very real changes that are happening. And so anticipatory grief can happen at these broader existential levels as well. And so it's a really natural process, but it's complicated and it's heavy. And so I'm speaking to this because, one of my core values is integrity and authenticity, and this is very alive and very real for me right now. And grief is something that we all go through. We all experience grief, and it's part of our range of emotion. And it's an expression and a reflection of the love and appreciation that you had for whatever it is that you are grieving. And it's mentally and physically and emotionally very similar to other experiences of grief that I've had, in the sense of like the sadness and the heartache and the numbness. But it's so unique because he's still here, at least in this moment. And that's so strange because there's this conflicting knowing of what's coming, and the void, because I've lost a pet before, I've lost loved ones, and I've talked in other episodes about losing my father rather abruptly, but it's it's that knowing, that anticipatory, like, knowing, you know, or at least conceptually we think we know because we've experienced something similar, and like it's confusing and it's overwhelming because it's, you know, how will things be different? How will I cope with this? Oh my God, is this going to be brutal? Is this going to like rip a massive hole in my heart? Because that's what happened with Nala, and you know, and like that causes a lot of anxiety and uncertainty, and of course, you know, the grief, the sadness is real, and then it's so challenging because he's here still, and you know, feeling this sadness around him, and I don't want him to feel that energy, you know, and so it's just this really interesting sort of duality of this deep sadness and this desire to be present and be joyful and be with him and create these lasting moments together, because that's how I want to remember him, and that's how I will remember him. And so, you know, it's really important that we, in this community, our work, and one of our tenets is that all of you is welcome here. All of these feelings, all of these parts of you. And sometimes, especially like me, if you've experienced really heavy and hard seasons of sadness, there's a fear around that taking hold again. Because we know it's that sadness is, with grief, is very real. And it's so important to have these tools and to have this conversation, because, you know, we can't be high vibe all the time, and nor should you be. That's not real. It's not real. It's not. And it's dismissive, and it's toxic, and it's bypassing. And when we experience deep emotions like this, there is a tenderness that comes, and this deep connection to self that comes. And there's so many different perspectives on grief, in that because it takes us to this tender place in the heart, it gives so much perspective. And what I've been sitting into now is, you know, and I know he's a dog, so it's kind of different, but it's not. It's like, how fully can you live each life? And that's the thing, is like he's a dog, and so he was just fully vibrant. Like, his life was just joy. It was, you know, tail wagging and stick jumping and like eating, a lot of eating. But he was so fully present in each moment, and that's the reminder, you know, is like this, just the go for it, and this willingness to live life fully and don't hold back, and like there's never going to be a better time. There's only this moment now. And so this recognition of, although, you know, it can feel like this spiral and this oscillation between this numbness and this heaviness and the sadness and this desire to love and appreciate him while I still can, and while we still can, and of course we always will, but I mean in the physical 3D sense, you know, and whatever that is, like, it's really important for us to have these tools, because this anticipatory grief differs in the sense of it's ongoing, right? Like, we haven't even got to that tough moment yet, and so now it's already very real for me. And so it's giving me, in a sense, giving us time to prepare, and I'm hoping that if, you know, this sort of walking through it now, I don't know how it'll shift it on the other side of things, but what I'm recognizing is these tools of noticing when I'm in the deep emotional, physical, mental, emotional experience of it. And maybe that's where I'm preparing myself even more, and maybe this is where you can, you know, play with this, if God forbid, heaven, goddess, universe, whatever's forbid that you too experience this at one point, or maybe you found this because you are. And so really recognizing those cues, those signals from your body, from your mind as well, and so dropping into the experience of it. Because I've noticed that when I'm really in the anxiousness and the sadness and the spiral of the deep deep tension and pain of it, that when I bring it and I drop into my body and I have placed my hands on my body and I breathe and I feel into where it is, which, admittedly, in the past I've been so reluctant to feel it because I thought it would make it worse. But when we're very in our mind, there's so much more contributing to that experience. And in our body, there's this, I experience it, I should say, I'm only speaking from personal experience, that when I bring it into my body and I feel it into my body and I approach it with this sense of a deep holding and love, and I imagine that I'm enveloped and surrounded by this deep, unending wave and presence of deep, 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 pure love. I hold myself in that first, and then I go into it. So that's bringing an extra layer of protection and tools. And then I hold the space for that. And it feels like I can go in there and I allow the feeling to be safe and to be held, because that part of me that's really sad or that is experiencing the grief wants to be witnessed, wants to be held, wants to be seen and loved and support at times, right? At times, sometimes we pull away. And so when we can bring ourselves into the felt sense experiencing of it and really name it and honor it, rather than attempting to bypass it or push it away or just avoid it because it's brutal, it really gives us the space to feel it fully. And that seems strange, right? Because why would I want to go and do that? Why would I subject myself to that? But I'm telling you, it's such an incredible difference. How I can explain it is that if I'm in it in my mind, it feels like, when there's a crazy stormy day out on the ocean and the waves are choppy and big and the sky is gray and the water is gray and it just looks like, whoa, you can tell it's a stormy day. That's what it feels like when I'm in my mind. And when I go into my body to feel it, it feels like being in a peaceful bay, and it's just floating. And that's right now. I know that can change, but it just gives me an opportunity to be present and to love and support yourself. So I'm just putting that out there as an opportunity and as an option, and holding it. And of course, these are tools, and movement is such a big tool, and getting support, surrounding yourself in community. If you found this, if you're not a listener to the weekly podcast and you found this by some magic of the algorithm gods, really giving yourself the support that you need, and hopefully you're finding that this is helpful. But reaching out to people that love you, and I've got to give myself some gold stars. Giving myself some gold stars right now because, I've told my loved ones, I've told my friends that, he's going over the bridge on Saturday, and it just feels so surreal. But I've asked them to check in on me. And that to me feels like a big win because, before in my sadness, I would just isolate and recluse. I don't know if that's the right word, but I would pull away. And I know that I will need to do that, right? And there's some internalization that happens with all of this, but I'm protecting myself from sliding down that slippery slope into deep sadness and depression by having people check in on me and feeling that love and using the tools. And so, yeah, I just really hope that, again, the intention for this whole show is to normalize these challenges as a part of the full spectrum of the human experience. And when we love, the natural opposite of that can be loss, right? And it's a really strange and painful part of the human experience is to love someone or something so much that when they leave this physical form, that it changes everything for us. And that external stressor becomes an internal challenge. And when our protective patterns of handling stress tend towards, this sort of hypervigilant anxiety and worry and what can I do to make this easy, in that spiral, or if it's the opposite and you tend to kind of move into that heaviness of sadness, it's really important, especially when there is something that it is so painfully sad, to lose a loved one or opportunity or life or whatever it is, you know, that has placed you in this situation. And so, you know, it's, at least when it comes to the case of, you know, being in this sort of limbo period before losing someone, it's really giving us that perspective of, I want to really cherish and enjoy every moment, right? And as hard as that is, and giving clarity around what really, really matters. And that is to be fully present, to be expressed in your love, to honor yourself, to recognize that all of you is welcome here, and to really see this as an opportunity to express your love when you still have the time and space to. And the beautiful thing is, you know, energy is neither created nor destroyed. And, you know, it's always sort of this bittersweet thing of, you know, when someone passes on, people say, oh, they're always with you. And it brings some peace. I feel like for me, that usually comes later, like that, you know, the initial grieving period is so intense that it doesn't necessarily fill the gap right away. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I wanted to just be real with you and let you know that this is where I'm at, and honor you as well, because the reality is that life presents us with these challenges, and when we are willing to, and with something like this, with a loss, seeing it as an opportunity or a gift can feel a little bit more challenging and a little bit further away from, yeah, okay, I can see that here. But the thing is that their presence is a gift in your life. That whatever it is, whether it's a thing or a person or reality shift, and there's so much to love and so much to appreciate, and that's a gift, right? And so we want to really honor that. And what you're feeling is a reflection of the love that you had for them. And so then, you know, what is the opportunity here? The opportunity is to really set ourselves up and be as tender as possible in the process, and to use these tools, right? One of which is power pauses. So what I want to share with you now is a practice that will help you to give space to yourself if you are experiencing anticipatory grief, and to hold yourself in the moment so that you can receive some love. Because I know in the tenderness of your heart and in this moment, that's what we need. We really need to be witnessed and seen, and that's what this is going to do. And it's so simple. And so if you're watching this video on YouTube, you can watch, keep your eyes open. If you're listening to the audio of this podcast, then, you know, as long as it's safe, you're going to close your eyes. But, you know, if you're driving, just listen and store this away for later, or just use one hand. So what I want you to do is, I want you to close your eyes for a moment and take a big deep breath. Breathe it out through your mouth with a little bit of sound. So as we breathe in through our nose, we're going to mentally say the word soft. And we breathe out, mentally say the word belly. Ready? Try. Inhale, soft. Exhale, belly. And what are you going to do when you do that? You're so smart. Soften the belly and breathe into it. Ready? Inhale, soft. Exhale, belly. And I want you to really move into this power pause, knowing that you can leave at any time. And of course, seek the support if you feel like you need more support, speaking with a counselor, professionally trained professional, therapist, etc., etc. Know that they are available for you too. So let's take an inhale. And I want you to just bring your attention to your body and place your hands on your heart. Classically, where we tend to experience emotions, whether they are uplifting and expansive emotions or more challenging and contractive or heavier ones like this. Bring your hands on your chest and breathe. Keep the mantra going, soft, belly. Snug your arms in a little bit closer, and that might mean bringing your hands into a slightly more overlap position, but hold your body closer. And if it's safe for you to do so, just gently sway. Gently sway yourself forward and back. Again, if you're driving, just do what you can or just listen. If you're fully in the experience, close your eyes and gently sway yourself forward and back. And if it's a thing that you're comfortable with, imagine that you are maybe in a beautiful, calm ocean, or maybe you prefer a hammock, and you're just gently getting rocked back and forth, held in place by this beautiful envelopment of this warm, deep, pure, loving, energetic presence all the way around your body and your being. Feel yourself getting held by it. Breathe. If that feels like a little bit out there for you, no worries. Just hold the pose, rock back and forward, hands on your body, gently breathing in and out. And then gradually come to a stop. And stay. Take another breath. And notice how you feel. So this power pause is part of the full episode of Navigating Anticipatory Grief on the podcast, which is the Movement, Mind, and Meaning podcast. Or if you happen to be listening to this and want to watch the video, it's over on YouTube, okay? So wherever you're at, there's more for you, right? And if you need to see the visual, that's what the YouTube clip of the power pause is for. And if you're catching just the power pause, make sure to listen or watch the whole episode, because there's a lot more in there for you. So yeah, I think that's all I have for today. I receive your love and I send it back to you, and just honor you and hold you, and whether you're in this reality right here, right now, there is an inevitable, well, that was hard to say. Inevitably, there will be a moment when someone that you love, or maybe you, deal with this. And so please feel free to share this episode with them, or just hold this knowledge in your heart that this is a very real experience, and it is a beautiful evidence and reflection of the love and appreciation that you felt for whatever it is. Maybe it's a pet, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a partner, I don't know, something else, health, and so I'm sending you a lot of love, and I really just honor yourself. And so the other thing is that the physicality of grief and sadness is just to really to nurture yourself. And I just stood before I got on here, and I was like, I was hungry, and I stood in front of the fridge, and I got over there, and I just stared at it, so just know that whatever it is temporary. And that's both beautiful and challenging at the same time. And the depth of what you're experiencing will gradually soften. And again, beautiful and challenging at the same time. It's like we don't want to lose them. I don't want this to ever get any easier, but I do at the same time. So it's strange. So I guess I'll just end there and just put a pin in that this is a strange part of our human experience, but it's a vulnerability that we want to be mindful of and compassionate about, so that, and if you notice that you are moving further into other challenges that you have from the mental health perspective, then really honoring that and seeking support. Right, seeking support, whether that's through counseling, therapy, movement modalities, medication, talking to, someone you love, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know the avenues, but I'm just putting that out there because sometimes, as much as this is really powerful to have these tools and to hold yourself and rock and do those, more nervous system regulation tools that we were doing there in the power pause, it's also time for you to receive love and support and to be held as well. And that's what the power pause did. But can you do it in a way that, you align with, that you feel is what you need? But reach out, reach out and take care of yourself, because it's never easy to lose something or someone. And so sending you a lot of love. And Bailey is at his other families right now, but I'm going to go pick him up in a little bit, and we're going to have some time together. So again, I'm going to stop. I love you. Have a good rest of your day. Take good care of yourself. And before I go, squeeze your furries. Love your loved ones. Appreciate this day. Go. Do it. Live. Time is now.